guys, this is Blake with the Three Hand Hunter channel, and this is the Obris Morgan Seastar 70s. But this isn't the only watch I have here today. I have the Seastar 60s here as well. This is probably the coolest microbrand you've never heard of. I'll tell you, I've owned this one right over here on my left for a while, and my friend Bob, he's owned this one over here on the right. Thought we'd put them together, show you exactly the differences between the two, which aren't many, but I want to show you how cool this design is for this particular watch. This is probably one of those micro brands you just haven't heard of, and it's a shame because they make a really cool, very, it's vintage inspired, obviously, but it's original. And that's the cool thing about these Obris Morgans. They're original design. They're not homages of anything, and they're really unique. Now, I want to tell you, I borrowed this one from Bob, so a big thank you to Bob for letting me use his Obris Morgan 60s Seastar to match it up with my 70s. I'm going to tell you how we came across these. I actually saw a review on an Obris Morgan, and I was texting my friend group of my watch enthusiast guys here, and I said, hey, have you guys ever heard of Obris Morgan? And I think Bob actually jumped and found his first, the 60s, and then I found the 70s right after it. And so we've owned these Seastars. Now, like I said, they're exactly the same, minus the dial configurations are a little bit different. And excuse my here, I'm going to put the 60s down for a second. Excuse my lens for a moment if the zoom is going out. But these are really, really cool watches, and I want to talk about them and why you should seek them out. But really quick, I have to mention this about the Obris Morgan brand. From what I can gather, well, they are a Chinese-based company. They're out of Hong Kong, and then they have a facility in China, probably, where they produce these. So they're a Chinese-made micro brand. But what I've noticed about Obris Morgan over the years is they have a few different models, and once their models are finished, it looks like they retire them and then they go for a new design. So like some of their past designs, their Nautilus, their Infinity, their GS2, their Explorer 2, you'll notice a lot of the same design language from the dials, like the one that you see here in the 60s. The 70s look a little bit different, and there's like an upgraded logo, which is supposed to be part of the rotor, which I found really interesting. But there's not a lot of heritage, or actually there's no heritage in these watches other than Obris Morgan has been around for a while, but they're really cool and very unique micro brand. I think it's pretty neat. Now, there's maybe a couple of differences here in the Seastar that I want to show you between the 60s and the 70s. But other than that, the design's pretty much the same. I'm thinking the thing we have to take a look at is the dial, the dial dimensions. And you notice that the Seastar on the 60s looks a little bit smaller than the Seastar on the 70s. And it's so maybe we'll be finding out for the very first time. So let's talk a little bit about these watches and what they come with. So this is the Seastar 70. This is my version. It's the Miyota 9015. It beats at 28,800 beats per hour, 42-hour power reserve, 40 millimeter case. So this is really unique. I'm going to show you this case. So it's a 40 millimeter case. It wears really well. And you know why? Well, it's got these 50 millimeter lug-to-lug distance right here, but it is the thinness at under 12. It's like closer to 11.5 millimeters. It wears super thin, 20 millimeter lug-to-lug, or lug distance, excuse me. But look at the case design and look at how those turn down lugs, they really just hug your wrist. And with these female end links, this is a really comfortable case. It is a really cool case. Now, Bob, who has dived for a big part of his life in his earlier years, we laugh about this helium escape valve. There is a helium escape valve here. It's he says it's the most useless thing he's ever seen. But you know, you can whoops, sorry Bob. You can unscrew it, you can screw it back in. It's something you can fidget around with. So I guess it makes it kind of fun, but then again, it's unique, right? It's unique to this watch. Now, what you're also going to notice the difference between these watches is the case finishing. On the left, on the 70's, is the bead blasted. That's mine, and Bob's has the just the normal brushing, you know, stainless steel brushing, which I haven't decided if I like this one better or this one better as far as the finishing. They're both done very well, and you can see the cases are exactly the same. Now, here's the difference. Might be that, well, let me just show you some of the differences here. So if you look at the dial itself, right? Okay. So and you can see there's a little pattern in there that goes around the dial itself, like it's not a hexagon. Oh, anyway, but this is right here. You can see that is 30.4, right? And if you look here, it is 30.3. That's 30.3. Let me try that again over here. Yeah, it's the same. It is a very much an illusion, and it makes it feel. And I think it's because of the sector dial layout that you have here with that circle on the inside of the dial that makes it visually look a little smaller than the 70's. As you can see, I switched them out. Let me put it back where I had it. That's really interesting. There's like all these little small design things that you just got to really pay close attention to with these watches. They are flat sapphire crystals, sapphire bezel insert, or you know, not sapphire, but it's going to be ceramic bezel insert, right? The dials are beautiful. Look at the handsets, very unique. Handset as far as the 60's has the colored minute hand, which I think is a really nice touch. Notice the seconds hand. There's a little yellow on the 70's, very light on the tip. It's more pronounced on the 60's. So the 60's, the color play is a little bit better in my opinion. Now the dial, depending on how you like it, you know, this is obviously less busy on the 70's, and the 60's, you know, with that circle on the inside is going to make it a little bit busier. Notice the Obris Morgan written at the 12 o'clock here on the 60's, where on the 70's, and I know this is disappearing behind the minute hand, but the symbol or their logo is there, and they made it much more simple, and all the writing on the bottom much different. Notice the date window. It's a circle over here on the 60's, and it's a square on the 70's. So you can see the subtle differences. And then there's the bezel insert. The bezel insert fonts are different. On the 70's, you have a 12-hour bezel. On the 60's, you have a dive timer, 60-minute dive timer bezel. Okay. One of the complaints that I have about this watch, and I know Bob has the exact same complaint, is the dial, or the bezel is very tough to turn. Like, I can't turn the 60's with my fingers. This is the only real complaint that Bob has and that I have as well. So you can't, like, I'm sitting here and I could probably do it, but I'm going to have to manhandle it. And mine on the 70's is not much different. But when you do click it, it is really, really a very positive experience. No backplay whatsoever. So trying to loosen that, it's going to be a little bit of a trick if you can. Okay. Now I want to show you the clasp with the bracelet. It's a 2-button deployant clasp, very classic styled, but both exactly the same. And they fit, like I said, it's very comfortable. The bracelets are very comfortable. They have a very nice taper. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it goes from 20. So you go from 20 down to 18. Yes, it is, down to 18. But it's a very comfortable bracelet. And look at the profile of the watches. I mean, look at the case profile, especially with the notch that comes out of the case. It's very 60s and 70s styled watches. They're super, super cool. Nice anti-reflective coating, anti-magnetic. I mean, these are great watches, and especially the prices that you can find these at. You can find these watches for sub 300. I think both Bob and I bought used or pre-owned copies for less than $300 US. And this is December of 2011, when I'm filming this. I got to show you something else though. You think this is it? No, the watches themselves are super cool. I'm going to show you how it fits on the wrist. Let me move this out of the way, and I want to show you let's see if I can come out just a little bit here. Okay, this is the packaging. It comes with one of these little really cool boxes. Now, inside of the packaging, you have this strap that's it's not like that FKM rubber. It's the lint kind, it's going to pull up a little bit of lint, but it's got a matching, and this is the 70's again. It's got the matching buckle, bead blasted. Comes with little tools, right? Which is nice. But this is what's really cool. So check this out. This was inside of the package, which gives you another bezel insert if you want to change up the color on the 70's to a blue and red. Very, let me move this out of the way. So if you want to change up the color configuration of your Seastar, how cool is that? Now I haven't done that obviously yet. I haven't pulled it off, but what's really nice about these little touches, it is blue and red if you like the Pepsi configuration, which I'm a big fan of Pepsi bezel inserts, and I know a lot of people are not. But the nice little touches here, and let me just show you this. So, as I showed you earlier about the 70's, the inside of the bezel insert, these little notches right here are very, very light yellow. And as you can see, the second hand has that light yellow tip and very little yellow accents. Well, in the bezel insert here, the bezel insert, these are yellow on the inside. I thought that was a really neat little touch with the bezel insert. Like I said, I haven't done that yet, but it's a really, I think it looks really cool. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm wearing a G-Shock, my Casio Oak. I'm doing a lot of manual labor work over at my wife's business. For the holidays, because she has a type of business that's very labor intensive during the holiday season. Her businesses, so I have to help out during the holidays quite a bit. But here's what it looks like on my wrist. Let me go ahead and zoom that out just a little bit so you can see how well this Seastar fits on my wrist. This is one of my most comfortable dive watches. And I want to show you something else with these Seastars. You notice how they have these drilled lug holes, and you can pull off this is probably one of the easier, even though it's not a quick release bracelet, it's one of the easiest bracelets to remove this bracelet from. One of the easiest watches to remove the bracelet from and put it back on that I've found. you know, maybe it's the way that it's fitted, but you notice that this case is like a very similar to a design of the 62 MAS Seiko MAS design, especially where the lugs are. And these are really long, you know, I say really long. It's 50 millimeter from lug tip to lug tip, but a little bit longer and straight almost lug openings. So when you put a strap on this watch, it looks really, really cool. Also, it fits NATOs extremely well. And especially because the watch wears so thin, it really fits any type of strap so well. That's why I think for the value, if you can find them. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, their current models, Port is their new one. They're trying to kickstart. I don't know if it's a Kickstarter. They're just trying to get it funded. I'm not sure if I'm a huge fan of their newest model, Port. I'd have to see it to believe it. But their Seastar 60s and 70s are still available on their site, but only in PVD. So they don't have them in stainless steel or brushed anymore. But if you can find these on the secondary market, when you can find them, they're usually at a really good price. Like I said, sub 300 bucks, and you got yourself a really nice, unique micro brand that's very well made. This is an extremely well-made watch. And like I said, what I think is pretty cool is what I've seen out of them for the last several years is when they have a design, when they retire it, it's done. It's over. And then they'll go on to a new design. That doesn't make it a special edition or limited edition, but I love it when companies actually take a design, they run with it for a while, they retire it, and they don't bring it back. Not saying that they never will, but it's going to be harder to find these watches, especially in these configurations. I actually recently saw one of the 60s with a blue minute hand for sale recently. I believe it was on eBay. And so, you know, again, you can find them. They're just getting harder and harder to find, but very, very cool watches. And I'm, quite frankly, was most impressed with this watch from a build quality standpoint, and just from the way it wears. It is so comfortable, and I was pleasantly surprised. You know, a lot of times you try out these watch brands and you're like, you know, but this is one of those that, you know, it's a really cool micro brand, and it doesn't have any, you know, there's no heritage there. It's just a micro brand out of China that's developing what I think are some pretty darn cool designs. And if you can find one, you know, I think they're a really good price for what you get. So anyway, I want to give a big shout out to Bob for loaning in his 60s. This is my 70s, and thank you very much for that. And if you guys like these types of reviews and these types of videos, make sure you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of. I have some really exciting ones coming up over the course of the next couple of weeks that I'm super excited to show you. Anyway, if you made it this far, let me introduce myself. My name is Blake, and I'm a bit of a watchaholic. And if you made it this far, you probably are one too. So thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next